My name is Olivia, and I spent years taking care of my in-laws, financially, emotionally, always putting them first. Even after my husband died, I kept them afloat. But when I lay in a hospital bed, begging them to watch my kids during my emergency surgery, they chose a luxury cruise instead. That was the moment I knew I was nothing more than an ATM to them. But they never expected me to walk away, and when their perfect world came crashing down, they came running back. This time, I wasn't there to save them. "Don't you dare ask us to cancel our trip again. We booked these tickets months ago." My mother-in-law's voice rang through the phone, sharp and unwavering. I gripped the sheets of my hospital bed, feeling my stomach churn, not just from the searing pain, but from the cold indifference in her tone. My vision blurred as I glanced at my 2-year-old twins, Ethan and Lily, playing quietly in the corner of the sterile room. A nurse named Valerie adjusted my IV drip, giving me a sympathetic look, but it did nothing to ease the weight crushing my chest. "Margaret, please," I whispered, my voice barely holding together. "This is emergency surgery. I have no one else to watch the kids." Silence, then a scoff. "We raised our son. We're not about to raise yours too." Her words hit harder than the grief that had been suffocating me for the past 6 months. I had been drowning ever since James died in that car accident, barely keeping my head above water. And yet, despite everything, I had continued supporting his parents financially, sending them $3,000 a month, just as James had promised them before his death. But now, when I was at my weakest, they couldn't give me a single night, not even a moment of concern. "We deserve to enjoy our retirement, Olivia," my father-in-law, William, chimed in, his voice full of irritation. "We're not your babysitters. You always make such a big deal out of things." A big deal. As if I weren't lying here, bleeding internally. As if I weren't terrified that my children would lose their only parent tonight. As if I hadn't done everything for them while they spent their days lounging in a $1 million home I was unknowingly paying for. I swallowed the lump in my throat, forcing my voice to stay steady. "I have no one else." "Then figure it out." Click. The call ended. I sat frozen, staring at the phone in disbelief. My fingers trembled as I tried to process what had just happened. The weight of everything pressed down on me, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the sheer unfairness of it all. A hand squeezed my shoulder gently. I looked up to see Valerie, the nurse, watching me with quiet understanding. "I have a friend," she said softly. "She's a professional nanny, specializes in childhood trauma. I can call her for you." I blinked back tears. A stranger, someone who owed me nothing, was offering more kindness than the people I had supported for years. I exhaled shakily and nodded, "Please." And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't just going to survive this surgery. I was going to survive them. The hospital lights buzzed faintly above me, casting an eerie glow over the sterile white walls. I stared at my phone screen, still unable to process what had just happened. My in-laws had truly abandoned me. I had always known they were selfish, but this? Leaving me to face surgery alone, with no one to care for my children, all because they didn't want to cancel their precious vacation? It wasn't just neglect. It was cruelty. Valerie's voice pulled me back to the present. "Olivia, Rachel is on her way. She's an incredible nanny, I promise. Your kids will be safe with her." Safe. A word that should have come from family, not a kind-hearted stranger. But at this point, I knew better than to expect love from the people who only saw me as a paycheck. Before we continue the story, I want to take a moment to connect with you, my incredible viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. I'd love to see where this story is reaching. And if you're watching this alone, I want to remind you, no matter where you are not alone. At least in this moment, I'm here with you, sharing this story. Rachel arrived within the hour. She was warm, confident, and instantly knelt down to speak to Ethan and Lily at their level, easing their fears in a way I barely had the energy for. Watching her scoop Lily into her arms with practiced ease, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. The doctors moved quickly. Within minutes, I was being prepped for surgery, the beeping of machines filling the room. But as I lay there, staring up at the ceiling, a thought hit me with the force of a wrecking ball. For years, I had taken care of my in-laws. Every month, without fail, I had sent them money. Even after James died. Even when I was drowning in grief. Even when I could barely afford help for my own children. And what had they given me in return? Nothing. No love, no support, no kindness. I closed my eyes, inhaling deeply as a strange sense of clarity washed over me. This was the last time they would take from me. "Valerie," I murmured, my voice hoarse. "Can you hand me my phone?" She placed it in my hand, and with one deep breath, I typed 2 messages. The first was to my bank, cancel all automatic transfers to William and Margaret Parker. The second was to my in-laws, effective immediately. I will no longer be providing financial support. My children and I deserve better than being your afterthoughts. Don't contact me again. I hit send, and for the first time in years, I felt free. I woke up to a dull, throbbing pain in my abdomen. The bright fluorescent lights of the hospital room blurred as I blinked my way back to consciousness. My body ached, my mind still hazy from the anesthesia. But I was alive. Rachel was there, sitting in a chair by the window, rocking Lily in her arms while Ethan snuggled against her shoulder. She smiled softly when she saw me stir. "They've been little angels," she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "How are you feeling?" I wanted to say grateful. Grateful that I had made it through the surgery. Grateful that, for once, I had put myself and my children first. But before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the nightstand beside me. The screen was flooded with notifications. 23 missed calls, dozens of messages, all from William and Margaret. I exhaled, already knowing exactly what they wanted. They weren't calling to ask if I had survived. They didn't care how the surgery went. No, they had seen the message. They had felt the loss, not of me, but of my money. I unlocked my phone, scrolling through the flood of texts. At first, there was confusion. "Olivia, we just saw the bank alert. Is there some sort of mistake?" Then anger. "This is absolutely ridiculous. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" And finally, desperation. "We need that money, Olivia. You can't just cut us off like this. We have bills. The mortgage is due." I stared at the words, feeling nothing. No guilt, no doubt. Just a quiet, settled certainty that I had made the right choice. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few days, the messages kept coming. Then the phone calls from other family members began. William's sister, Margaret's cousin. Each of them parroting the same narrative my in-laws had spun. "They're struggling, Olivia. They depended on that money. They took care of James for so many years, and now you're abandoning them? You're being so cruel." I didn't respond. Because here was the truth they all seemed to forget. William and Margaret weren't struggling. They were living in a gated community, in a house far too large for 2 retired people. They had a boat docked at the marina. They traveled constantly, ate at the finest restaurants, wore designer clothes, all while treating my financial support as a given, not a privilege. They weren't struggling. They were spoiled. And they had expected me to pay for their lifestyle forever. But now, with their golden goose gone, the reality of their choices was closing in. Then one day, I received a message that caught my attention. It was from Jessica, James's younger sister. "Mom and Dad just told me you abandoned them, but something doesn't feel right. Can we talk?" Jessica and I had never been particularly close. She had always believed her parents' version of things, thinking of me as distant, difficult, maybe even selfish for not spending more time with them. But now, it seemed, she was starting to see cracks in their story. I agreed to meet her for coffee. The moment she sat down across from me, she looked conflicted, like she was piecing together a puzzle she had never realized was missing pieces. "They told me you just randomly cut them off," she said hesitantly. "That you were angry about something small and decided to punish them." "But then I saw their financials, Olivia." I tilted my head. "What about them?" Jessica let out a bitter laugh. "They're a mess. They're behind on their mortgage. They maxed out their credit cards. They took out a loan against the house last year just to buy that damn boat." I wasn't surprised. But what came next did surprise me. "And they lied to me about your surgery," Jessica continued, her expression darkening. "They told me it was just a minor procedure, that you were being dramatic. If I had known it was emergency surgery, I would have been there. I swear, Olivia, I would have watched the kids." I believed her. Because for the first time, Jessica wasn't looking at me through the lens of our in-laws' manipulation. She was seeing them for who they really were. "I don't know why I believed them for so long," she admitted, shaking her head. I thought they loved you, that they loved the kids, but now I see it. They only love what you can give them." She wasn't wrong. But what she didn't realize was that I had spent years making excuses for them too. I had wanted to believe they cared, that they were family, that they saw me as more than just a bank account. It had taken this, the ultimate betrayal, for me to finally accept the truth. Jessica took a deep breath before speaking again. "They need money, Olivia. They're asking me to step in now that you've cut them off." I waited, watching her carefully. "And?" I prompted. Her jaw tightened, and I told them no. A slow smile spread across my face. For the first time, they were facing real consequences. And this time, there was no one left to save them. Weeks passed, and the desperate messages from my in-laws only got worse. At first, it was just complaints. Then, it turned into full-blown panic. "Olivia, we're behind on the mortgage. They're threatening foreclosure. How could you do this to us? We had to sell the boat at a loss because of you." Each message was dripping with entitlement, as if I owed them the life they had built on my generosity, as if I had forced them to live beyond their means. Then one day, it escalated. A knock at my door. I already knew who it was before I even checked the peephole. Margaret and William stood there, looking far less put together than usual. Margaret's designer handbag was nowhere to be seen. William, always so smug, looked small, like a man who had finally realized he had gambled everything and lost. I hesitated for only a second before I opened the door, just enough to stand in the frame. "Olivia, thank God," Margaret started, forcing a tight smile. "We've come to talk, sweetheart." I raised a brow. "Sweetheart?" They hadn't called me that in years. "We need your help," William cut in, his voice low and serious. "We're about to lose the house. If you could just cover a couple months of payments." I let out a slow, quiet breath. There it was, the real reason they were here. "No," I said simply. Margaret flinched as if I had slapped her. "Olivia, come on, we're family." "Are we?" I asked, tilting my head. "Because I remember lying in a hospital bed, begging for your help, and you told me I was a burden. You chose a vacation over me, over your grandchildren." William shifted uncomfortably. We didn't realize it was that serious." "No," I corrected. "You didn't care." A flash of frustration crossed his face, the mask slipping for just a second. "It's not like you're broke, Olivia. You can afford to help." And that was it. The moment I saw them for exactly who they were. They weren't here because they regretted what they had done. They weren't here because they wanted to mend things. They were here because they still thought they were entitled to what was mine. I took a step back and exhaled. "You're right. I can afford to help, but I won't." Margaret's face contorted in disbelief. "You're punishing us." "No," I said softly. "I'm finally choosing myself." For years, I had bent over backward to support them. I had sacrificed my own needs, my children's needs, to maintain the illusion of a family that had never truly existed. But now I was done. "Olivia, please," Margaret tried again, her voice breaking. "If we lose the house, we have nowhere to go." I held her gaze for a long moment before answering. "You'll figure it out." And with that, I closed the door. They knocked, they shouted, they begged, but I didn't open it again. 2 months later, their house went into foreclosure. They moved into a small rental far from the luxury they were used to. William had to get a job at a local hardware store. Margaret, who had spent her whole life looking down on people who worked for a living, was now struggling to adjust to a world where she wasn't handed everything. And me? For the first time in years, I could breathe. I had used the money I once wasted on them to hire full-time help for my kids. I moved to a better neighborhood. I started building a life for myself and my children, one that wasn't weighed down by guilt and obligation. One evening, as I was tucking Ethan and Lillian to bed, my phone buzzed with a notification. An email. From Margaret. I stared at it for a moment before slowly opening it. "Olivia," it began, "I've had a lot of time to think, and I realize now how selfish we were. We expected you to take care of us without ever considering what you needed. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted to say I'm sorry, truly." I closed the email and set my phone down. I didn't reply. Maybe one day I would. But for now, I had a family to take care of, the one I had chosen. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about self-worth, boundaries, and breaking free from toxic expectations. Too often, we give and give, hoping that loyalty will be returned, only to realize that some people only see us for what we can provide. Olivia's journey is a reminder that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. She learned that real family isn't about blood, it's about the people who show up when it matters. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment 2 if you think Olivia made the right choice, or 7 if you think she should have helped her in-laws. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to share more with you. See you in the next one.